I'm going to be reading from Life of Pi. Now, I have not read this book before, but I have this book, so I'm hoping that you will find this video relaxing and peaceful. And I will be reading this soft spoken, so I'm going to start with chapter 1, as most people would. Okay. My suffering left me sad and gloomy. Academic study and the steady, mindful practice of religion slowly brought me back to life. I have kept up what some people would consider my strange religious practices. After 1 year of high school, I attended the University of Toronto and took a double major bachelor's degree. My majors were religious studies and zoology. My 4th year thesis for religious studies concerned certain aspects of the cosmogony theory of Isaac Luria, the great 16th century Kabbalist from Safed. My zoology thesis was a functional analysis of the thyroid gland of the three-toed sloth. I chose the sloth because its demeanour, calm, quiet and introspective, did something to soothe my shattered self. There are 2-toed sloths and there are 3-toed sloths, the case being determined by the forepaws of the animals, since all sloths have 3 claws on their hind paw. I had the great luck one summer of studying the 3-toed sloth in situ in the equatorial jungles of Brazil. It is a highly intriguing creature. Its only real habitat is indolence. It sleeps or rests on average 20 hours a day. Our team tested the sleep habits of 5 wild 3-toed sloths by placing their heads in the early evening after they had fallen asleep, bright red plastic dishes filled with water. We found them still in place late the next morning, the water of dishes swarming with insects. The sloth is at its busiest at sunset, using the word busy here in the most relaxed sense. It moves along the bough of a tree in its characteristic upside-down position at the speed of roughly 400 meters an hour. On the ground, it crawls to its next tree at the rate of 250 meters an hour. When motivated, which is 440 times slower than the motivated cheetah. Unmotivated, it covers 4 to 5 meters an hour. The 3-toed sloth is not well informed about the outside world. On a scale of 2 to 10, where 2 represents the unusual dullness and 10 extreme activity, Beebe, 1926, gave the sloth a sense of taste, touch, sight and hearing a rating of 2, and its smell a rating of 3. If you come across a sleeping 3-toed sloth in the wild, 2 or 3 nudges should suffice to awaken it. It will then look sleepily in every direction but yours. Why it should look about is uncertain, since the sloth sees everything in a magoo-like blur. As for hearing, the sloth is so much as deaf as uninterested in sound. He reported that firing guns next to sleeping or feeding sloth elicited little reaction, and the sloth's slightly better sense of smell should not be overestimated. They are said to be able to sniff and avoid decayed branches, but Bullock reported that sloths fall to the ground, clinging to decayed branches often. How does it survive, you might ask? Precisely by being so slow. Sleepiness and slothfulness keep it out of harm's way, away from the notice of jaguars, ocelots, harpy eagles and anacondas. A sloth hare shelters an algae that is brown during the dry seasons and green during the wet seasons. So the animal blends in with the surroundings, moss and foliage, and it looks like a nest of white ants or squirrels, or nothing at all but part of a tree. The three-toed sloth lives in peaceful vegetarian life in perfect harmony with the environment. A good-natured smile is forever on its lips, reported Tyler. I have seen the smile with my own eyes. I am not one given to projecting human traits and emotions onto animals, but many a time during that month in Brazil, looking at sloths in repose, I felt I was in the presence of an upside-down yogis deep in meditation, or hermits deep in prayer, wise being whose intense imaginative lives were beyond the reach of my scientific probing. Sometimes I got my majors mixed up. A number of my fellow religious studies students, muddled agnostics who didn't know which way was up, who were in the thrall of reason. That fool's gold for the bright reminded me of the three-toed sloth, and the three-toed sloth, such a beautiful example of the miracle of life, reminded me of God. I never had problems with my fellow scientists. Scientists are friendly, atheistic, hard-working, beer-drinking lot whose minds are preoccupied with sex, chess, and baseball when they are not preoccupied with science. I was a very good student, if I may say so myself. I was taught at St. Michael's College for 4 years in a row. I got every possible student award from the Department of Zoology. If I got none from the Department of Religious Studies, it is simply because there are no student awards in this department. The rewards of religious study are not in mortal hands, we all know that. I would have received the Governor's General Academic Medal, the University of Toronto's highest undergraduate award, of which no similar illustrious Canadians have been recipients, were it not for a beef-eating pink boy with a neck like a tree trunk and a temperament of unbearable good cheer. I still smart a little at the sight. Oh my goodness, I can't read this book. I'm sorry I keep messing up the words, but I still smart a little at the slight. When you've suffered a great deal in life, each additional pain is both unbearable and trifling. My life is like a memento mori painting from European art. There is always a grinning skull at my side to remind me of the folly of human ambition. I mock this skull. I look at it and say, "You've got the wrong fellow. You may not believe in life, but I don't believe in death. Move on." The skull snickers and moves even closer, but that doesn't surprise me. The reason death sticks so closely to life isn't biological necessity, it's envy. Life is so beautiful that death has fallen in love with it, a jealous, possessive love that grabs at what it can. But life leaps over oblivion lightly, losing only a thing or two of no importance, and the gloom is but the passing of shadow of a cloud. The pink boy also got the nod from the Rhodes Scholarship Committee. I love him and I hope his time at Oxford was a rich experience. If Lakshmi, goddess of wealth, one day favours me bountifully, Oxford is 5th on the list of cities I would like to visit before I pass on, after Mecca, Varanasi, Jerusalem and Paris. I have nothing to say of my working life, only that a tie is a noose, and inverted though it is, I will hang a man nonetheless if he is not careful. I love Canada. I miss the heart of India, the food, the house lizards on the walls, the musicals on the silver screen, the cows wandering the streets, the cows cawing, and even the talk of cricket matches. But I love Canada. It is a great country, much too cold for good sense, inhabited by compassionate, intelligent people with bad hairdos. Anyway, I have nothing to go home to in Pondicherry. Richard Parker stayed with me. I have never forgotten him. Dare I say I miss him? I do, I miss him. I still see him in my dreams. They are nightmares mostly, but nightmares tinged with love. Such is the strangeness of the human heart. I still cannot understand how he could abandon me so unceremoniously, without any sort of goodbye, without looking back even once. That pain is like an axe that chops at my heart. The doctors and nurses at the hospital in Mexico were incredibly kind to me, and the patients too. Victims of cancer or car accidents. Once they heard my story, they hobbled and wheeled over to see me. They and their families, though none of them spoke English, and I spoke no Spanish. They smiled at me, shook their head, patted me on the head, left gifts of food and clothing on my bed. They moved me to uncontrollable fits of laughing and crying. Within a couple of days I could stand, even make 2-3 steps, despite nausea, dizziness and general weakness. Blood tests revealed that I was anemic, and that my levels of sodium was very high and my potassium low. My body retained fluids and my legs swelled up tremendously. I looked as if I had been grafted with a pair of elephant legs. My urine was a deep, dark yellow going on to brown. After a week or so, I could walk just about normally, and I could wear shoes if I didn't lace them up. My skin healed, though I still have scars on my shoulders and back. The first time I turned a tap on, its noisy, wasteful, superabundant gush was such a shock that I became incoherent and my legs collapsed beneath me, and I fainted in the arms of a nurse. The first time I went to an Indian restaurant in Canada, I used my fingers. The waiter looked at me critically and said, "Fresh off the boat, are you?" I blanched. My fingers, which a second before had been taste buds savouring the food a little ahead of my mouth, became dirty under his gaze. They froze like criminals caught in the act. I didn't dare lick them. I wiped them guiltily on my napkin. He had no idea how deeply those words wounded me. They were like nails being driven into my flesh. I picked up the knife and fork. I had hardly ever used such instruments. My hand trembled. My sambar lost its taste. Chapter 2. He lives in Scarborough. He's a small, slim man, no more than 5'5", dark hair, dark eyes, his hair greying at the temples. Can't be older than 40. Pleasing coffee-coloured complexion, mild fall weather, yet puts on a big winter parka with fur-lined hood for the walk to dinner. Expressive face, speaks quickly, hands flitting about. No small talk, he launches forth.